He hung the first doll to protect her. By the time they found him, 50 years later, there were thousands. The island sits in the ancient canal network of Xochimilco, on the southern edge of Mexico City. It has no official name on any map. Locals call it La Isla de las Muñecas, the Island of the Dolls. It is roughly 100 meters long. A man named Julian Santana Barrera lived alone on this island for approximately 50 years. He arrived sometime in the 1950s. He was not a hermit by nature. He had a family. He left them. The reason he gave was the island itself. According to his own account, recorded by his nephew Anastasio Velázquez Santana, Julian found the body of a young girl in the canal shortly after he arrived. She had drowned. Her identity was never formally established. No missing persons report from that period has ever been matched to her. Days after the girl was found, Julian discovered a small doll floating in the same canal. He believed it had belonged to her. He hung it from a tree, not as decoration, as an offering. He said it was to show respect to her spirit. What happened after that is where the documented record begins to thin, and where a small, water-damaged journal fills the silence. The journal was found in 2007, tucked inside a rotting wooden box beneath the floorboards of Julian's Chinampas hut. It had never been catalogued, never translated in full. Its pages are warped and stained with canal water. Certain entries are missing entirely, torn out, or dissolved by decades of humidity. From the journal, the doll I found was not whole. One eye was open, one was gone. I hung her facing the water so she could watch. This matches the earliest documented accounts from Xochimilco locals, who recalled seeing a single doll on the island as far back as the late 1950s. From the journal, that first night after I hung her, the water was very still. I heard something move beneath the surface. I did not look. Julian was not a superstitious man by reputation. His nephew described him as practical, quiet, someone who measured things twice before cutting. From the journal, I do not believe in ghosts. I believe in what I have seen. These are not the same thing. Within the first year, he had hung 7 dolls. Each one, he noted, was found in the canal, never purchased, never brought from the mainland deliberately. From the journal, the second one I found had no arms. The third had hair that was still damp when I pulled it from the reeds. It had not been in the water long. No boat traffic was recorded passing through that section of the canal during that period. The Chinampas were largely abandoned. There was no obvious source for the dolls. From the journal, by the 4th doll, I stopped asking where they came from. I started asking why they kept arriving. Canal records from the Xochimilco Administrative District show no registered boat traffic along that particular waterway between 1955 and 1961. The section was considered non-navigable. From the journal, the 5th doll was seated upright against a root at the canal's edge. Her dress was dry. The mud around her was not disturbed. Julian began keeping a record of each doll, where it was found, its condition, the direction it faced when discovered. He did this with the precision of a man logging inventory. From the journal, I have begun to notice that they do not all face the same direction when I find them, but when I wake, they do. His nephew Anastasio, who visited the island several times during this period, confirmed that Julian repositioned nothing. He was insistent about that. The dolls were hung where they were found. From the journal, Anastasio asked me if I was lonely. I told him I had not been alone since the first week. He did not ask again. By the early 1960s, local Trajinera boatmen began reporting something unusual, a cluster of dolls visible through the reeds on a stretch of canal that had no registered inhabitant. From the journal, a boatman stopped today. He stared for a long time. He crossed himself and pushed on. I did not call out to him. Did not. Word spread slowly through Xochimilco. not as legend, not yet, but as a quiet detail passed between boatmen. There was a man, there was an island, and something on it that did not quite sit still. By 1963, the island had accumulated somewhere between 40 and 60 dolls. Julian had stopped counting by name. He had started counting by position. From the journal, I no longer hang them where I choose. I hang them where they seem to want to be. There is a difference. I have learned to feel it. Anastasio Velázquez Santana gave an interview to a Mexico City cultural archive in 1998. He described visiting the island during this period and feeling, in his words, watched from every direction at once. From the journal, Anastasio counted them today. He reached 31 and then stopped. He said the number felt wrong. I did not tell him I had counted 64. This discrepancy appears in the archive interview as well. Anastasio recalled counting fewer dolls than Julian had logged. He attributed it to the density of the foliage. He did not offer another explanation. From the journal, there is one I have never touched. She arrived on a night I did not hear the water. She was already hung when I woke. I do not know from which tree she watches me. Julian's journal entries from the mid-1960s grow shorter. The careful inventory he once kept, condition, position, direction, begins to compress into single lines, sometimes only a few words. From the journal, she is not unhappy. I want to be clear about that. She is simply not finished. Finished. Who he meant by she is never clarified in the surrounding entries. The pronoun appears 11 more times across the remaining pages. It is never attached to a name. From the journal, the canal gave me another one this morning. Her mouth is open. I have placed her where she can see the water. She seems to prefer it that way. By the late 1960s, Julian had stopped sleeping inside the hut on certain nights. He moved his bedroll to the open ground, closer to the trees. From the journal, I sleep better when I can see them. Inside, I am aware of which direction they face. Outside, we face the same direction. Que post was the distance. Xochimilco municipal records from 1968 show a single land use notation for the island, registered as an active chinampa, cultivated by one resident. No inspection was ever conducted. From the journal, a child from one of the Trajineras waved at me from the water today. Then she pointed at something behind me. When I turned, nothing had moved, but one had. The dolls on the island were not preserved. They were left entirely to the elements, to rain, to heat, to the slow corrosion of canal humidity. Julian made no attempt to protect them. From the journal, people ask why I do not cover them from the rain. I think they do not understand. The weathering is the point. She weathered too. By 1970, Trajinera boatmen had begun deliberately rerouting to pass the island. Not out of fear, out of something harder to name. An obligation, some said. A need to look. From the journal, more people pass now. I notice they never speak while they look. They wait until the island is behind them. I can hear them start again once they have rounded the bend. Julian grew vegetables on the Chinampa and traded them at the Xochimilco market. Vendors who dealt with him regularly described a man who was unhurried, precise, and entirely without self-pity. From the journal, I sold the squash today. On the way back, I found 2 more dolls caught in the reeds at the north end. They were facing each other. I left them that way. By 1971, Julian had not left the island for more than 3 consecutive days in nearly a decade. Vendors at the Xochimilco market began sending goods to him by boat rather than waiting for him to appear. From the journal, I used to go to the market for the people. Now I think I stay for the same reason. It is easier not to explain what I cannot explain to myself. A woman named Concepcion Reyes, a flower vendor who traded with Julian for over 15 years, recalled that he once arrived at market with soil still on his hands and a look she described as someone returning from very far away. From the journal, Concepcion asked if I was well. I said I was. She looked at my hands. I had not noticed the mud. I do not always notice things about myself anymore. The journal entries from 1972 contain an unusual repetition. The word listening appears 14 times across 7 separate entries, always lowercase, always without a stated object. Listening to what is never written. From the journal, the listening is not frightening. I want to record that clearly. It is more like standing in a room where someone has just stopped speaking. The silence has a shape. Anastasio visited the island again in 1973. He later described finding Julian seated at the water's edge, at an hour he described as neither night nor morning, his back to the hut and his face toward the canal. From the journal, Anastasio found me at the water this morning. I had been there since the 3rd hour. I did not tell him what I had heard. Some things, once spoken, stop being true. By the mid-1970s, the number of dolls on the island had grown beyond any reliable count. Anastasio estimated hundreds. A Trajinera guide, interviewed in 2003, said simply that counting them felt like the wrong thing to do. From the journal, someone left a doll at the edge of the canal today, left it deliberately, propped against a post. They did not come onto the island. They did not call out. They simply left her and went. This was the first recorded instance of someone leaving a doll for Julian, rather than Julian finding one. The direction had reversed. From the journal, by the end of that week, 3 more had been left at the post. I have not seen a single face among the people who bring them, only the dolls, after. What had begun as one man's private ritual was quietly becoming something communal, a practice without a name, passed between strangers who had never met. From the journal, I asked Concepcion if she had heard why people were bringing them. She said they bring them so something will be remembered. She did not say what. Xochimilco oral histories collected in the 1990s suggest that by the late 1970s, leaving a doll at the island had acquired the quiet weight of an offering, though no one could say to whom. From the journal, the island is not mine anymore. I do not think it ever was. I was only the first one to stay long enough to understand that. Julian's vegetable yields, carefully noted in market ledgers from the 1970s, remained consistent year over year. The work of the Chinampa never faltered, even as everything else on the island grew stranger. From the journal, I planted the corn today. The soil here has always been good. She does not interfere with the living things, only watches over them, I think. By 1980, the island held what witnesses estimated at several hundred dolls. No photograph from this period has been verified. No official visit was ever recorded. From the journal, I counted again tonight. The number I reached does not matter. What matters is that when I finished, I had the distinct sense that something had been counting me back. The 1980s brought something new to the island, visitors who arrived not by accident, but by intention. They had heard something from someone, and they came to see for themselves. From the journal, a man came today with a camera. He stood at the edge for a long time before he raised it. When he finally did, he took only one photograph. Then he left the camera on the post and went back to his boat. The camera was never claimed. Julian logged it in the journal without further comment. There is no record of whether the photograph it contained was ever developed. From the journal, I have begun to notice that the ones brought by strangers are different from the ones the canal gives me. The canal's dolls are worn smooth. The stranger's dolls still have expressions. I am not sure which I trust more. Julian Santana Barrera turned 70 in 1981. No record marks the occasion. The journal entry for that date contains only 4 words, written in a steadier hand than the surrounding pages. From the journal, still here, still listening. By the mid-1980s, The island had begun to appear in regional folklore collections, not as a historical site, but as a place described in the same breath as dreams and thresholds. Researchers noted it without quite knowing how to categorize it. From the journal, someone wrote about the island in a book. Anastasio brought it to me. I read the passage 3 times. They described it correctly, but they described the wrong thing. They saw the dolls. They did not see what the dolls are doing. What the dolls were doing, Julian never wrote plainly. The journal circles the idea across dozens of entries, watching, holding, keeping, but never arrives at a single word that satisfies him. From the journal, I have decided I will not name what they do. A name would make it smaller. And whatever it is not small. I have lived beside it for 30 years, and it has not become smaller. In April 1985, Anastasio visited the island for what would be the last time. He later said Julian seemed lighter than he had ever seen him, not happy, exactly, but settled. From the journal, Anastasio asked if I was at peace. I told him I was not sure peace was the right word. I told him I was at attention. He seemed to understand. Julian Santana Barrera died on April 17, 2001. He was found in the canal at the same spot where, 50 years earlier, he had found the girl. The cause of death was recorded as drowning. From the journal, the final entry, dated April 16, 2001, the night before his death, the water was very still this evening. I sat with her for a long time. I think she is less alone now than she was. I think I am too. After his death, his family maintained the island. The dolls remained. No one removed them. No one has ever removed them. The island is now a recognized cultural heritage site within the Xochimilco Ecological Reserve. Thousands of visitors arrive each year. They still bring dolls. The practice has never been formally encouraged, and it has never stopped. The journal itself, if it exists, has never been produced for public record. Julian's family, when asked, neither confirms nor denies it. The entries cited in this documentary were provided by a single source, who has not been identified. What is documented is this: 1 man, 1 island, 1 canal, and a child no one could find a record of, and 50 years of something that has no category in any official archive. Visitors to the island today report the same thing, independently, without prompting, a feeling of being watched, not threatened. Watched, as though something on the island is still doing exactly what Julian said it was doing. The girl in the canal was never identified. The journal was never verified. And on the island, the dolls continue to face whatever direction they face, patient, weathered, and entirely without explanation.